Hello, I'm Sadhika Tiwari and sorry, need to remove this mask. Not a huge fan of it anyway, it keeps ruining my makeup. But what option do we have? Look at all of this construction dust around my house. Anyway, I'm Sadhika Tiwari and you're watching Eco India. And today I will take you along with me to explore innovations that are offering improvements to the way we build, including how to deal with this annoying dust. Hand to my heart, if I could, I would go to Rishikesh at least once every month. And maybe also live there between October and December because of the pollution. And maybe also May and June because of the peak heat. I mean, I can practically live there. But I feel most Delhiites and people who live near the capital region would share my sentiment. Let me show you. Rishikesh is a beautiful city located in the foothills of Himalayas in India's mountain state, Uttarakhand. The beautiful, pristine Ganges flows through here and it is a popular weekend getaway for most Delhiites. I mean, if given a choice, no one would deny living here. I mean also because Delhi is a city of extremes. The heat wave, the cold wave and unbreathable pollution. The pollution here gets so bad that we have a term for people who leave the city for a couple of months, the polluted months. It's called pollucation. And I mean, one of the major reasons cited for this pollution is stubble burning, at least for a couple of those months. But there is someone who has turned this problem into a solution for the same problem. Okay, no more riddles, see for yourself.
In the low-lying mountains of Rishikesh, Lakshmi Sivaswamy is overseeing construction on a hillside home for her family. Her husband's parents will move here to escape the toxic air pollution that plagues Delhi and its greater metropolitan region known as the NCR.
Basically, the idea is of making my in-laws feel more comfortable with respect to all the unfortunate illnesses that you encounter in places like NCR, etc. So, you know, diabetes and pressure, etc. So, wanted to bring them to a place which was more peaceful and more connected to the nature.
The house is not just located in a peaceful setting. It is also built with materials that are easier on the environment than conventional homes. Above all, with an alternative brick built by its makers as carbon negative. That is because it addresses one source of the stifling smog that chokes Delhi and other Indian cities during the winter, when farmers torch their fields to clear them of crop residue in time for their next sowing season. To tackle the problem, Tarun Jami set out to turn stubble into a resource. The brick he named Agrocrete combines crop waste like paddy straw with a mineral binder. Since 2020, his company Green Jams has produced thousands of blocks that it says have helped capture more than 130 tons of climate-heating carbon dioxide.
So when the crop is growing, it is absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere and it is basically embodying it. But if we leave it to decompose or burn, the CO2 goes back into the atmosphere. So it's essentially the carbon cycle put in a nutshell. Now we stop it there. We take the crop residues, we mix it with our mineral binders, so now it is chemically bonded within the concrete, and that is how we're actually able to cut the carbon cycle and put that CO2 into this mix. And because it is chemically bonded, it does not ever go back out into the atmosphere.
The bricks are lightweight and easy to handle. They are also robust and offer better thermal insulation than widely used clay bricks like these. That makes them a sturdy alternative for smaller scale buildings in a country that over the next 15 years expects to see a continued construction boom.
A clay sort of needs to be fired at about 1000 degrees centigrade to create good bricks, which is a high temperature. And of course, if you have such high temperatures, you usually need a lot of fuel. And most of that fuel is of course coal-based. So in fact, India is the second largest producer of bricks. We produce about 200 to 260 billion bricks every year. And in terms of industry, it's the third largest consumer of coal. So you can imagine how much of emissions are taking place because of it.
Agrocrete doesn't just have the potential to curb pollution caused by stubble burning and clay kilns. The bricks are manufactured by franchise partners who source Harvest residue from local farms. That generates extra income for farmers and cuts emissions from transportation and logistics.
So we procure the crop residues. They come bundled, loose. They come in multiple formats depending on how it is harvested. We pile them up here, and you can see this tiny hillock of paddy straw here. And after that happens, once we receive it here, the next thing that we do is we using a thresher machine. It's regular farm equipment. This has been used since centuries. So we use that and we resize them, we chop them up into smaller particles.
Once chopped and soaked, the stubble is combined with a patented binder, also made from agricultural residue and non-toxic byproducts of steel manufacturing.
This is our pan mixer. Into this go the crop residues and the fly ash, and the most important component without which agrocrete cannot be made, which is binder. So those are the bags of binder. We manufacture it in Vizag in our own manufacturing unit.
Half an hour after mixing, the agrocrete is molded and left to sun dry for a week. Priced between 26 and 55 rupees each, less than 60 euro cents, a single block equals the size of 8 to 10 red clay bricks. That makes it a cheaper option.
It solves multiple problems. One, your waste gets reduced. Two, stubble burning, as you said, gets reduced. Third, perhaps the fact that if you use such a material, you're not going for virgin material which have to be extracted or mined from earth, which is a good thing. And fourth, perhaps also the fact that it can trap carbon and put it into my buildings, which gives me a way to sequester my carbon into my buildings, which is a wonderful idea that can be moved forward with.
Back in Rishikesh, Sivaram is busy at Lakshmi Sivaswami's construction site. It is the second house he has built using agrocrete.
इससे तो बहुत दिक्कत कम हो गई हैं। एक तो ब्लॉक
It is very easy to work with. First of all, one block is bigger than a single conventional brick, so it is faster to work with. I do not have to use a lot of mortar either.
अब जो एक ईंट
See here, I have used only one block. That's the same size at 8 red bricks. Since I would have to do this 8 times, this brick saves me time.
एक ही बार में रख दिया।
It's about going how technology and nature can come together and how we can be responsible in our own ways. So I took the responsibility with the brick and other things that we are going to use in this place so that it is going to be more sustainable and of course give the opportunity for my family to be more close to the nature.
A home close to nature built with a brick that can be produced almost anywhere, laying the foundation for a built environment that's designed to protect our natural resources.
Steel is killing the environment. Yeah, the same metal that your utensils, cars, homes, and even the back of this watch is made of. See? Stainless steel. But steel sucks because it is very damaging for the environment. I'm not saying this. Experts are telling us this. Which means that every time you use anything made of stainless steel, your carbon footprint goes up. Damn this watch. But there are some things that can be done to reduce the adverse impacts of steel on the environment.
This is the metal that makes the modern world tick. Imagine a life without it. No cars, homes, gadgets, electricity. But this wonder material that our lives are built around carries a dirty secret that nobody's talking about. The steel industry is responsible for a jaw-dropping 8% of the world's greenhouse gas pollution. And bizarrely, we're actually going to need a lot more of it to clean up our economies. So how can we make steel green? And what's wrong with the industry's favourite solutions? There are two reasons the steel-making process is so dirty. The first is purifying the iron ore needed for steel. By heating iron ore over charcoal fires or mixing it with coking coal in big blast furnaces, you can extract pure iron from rock. That's because oxygen atoms in the iron ore fly off and bind with carbon atoms in the coal. What's left behind is essentially pure iron, known as reduced iron, and a whole load of CO2. The second reason steel sucks is that it takes colossal amounts of energy to power this process. And most of that comes from, you guessed it, burning coal. So, what should steelmakers be doing right now?
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen? Take hydrogen.
The wonders of hydrogen.
Hydrogen is a gas and fuel that can be made cleanly with renewable energy, or much less cleanly with fossil gas. If you reduce iron ore with hydrogen, oxygen atoms no longer react with carbon atoms to make CO2. Instead, they react with hydrogen atoms to make H2O.
The beauty about this concept is, yes, you need a new production process, but as a byproduct, you have water instead of CO2. And this is how we can make the steelmaking process climate neutral.
The second step is then feeding the purified iron into an electric arc furnace. These devices melt down scrap steel or reduced iron with high currents of electricity that turn them into liquid steel. And ideally, they would be running on electricity made from renewable energy. That's pretty much what Swedish steelmaker SSAB did when it delivered the world's first batch of fossil-free steel to car maker Volvo. Europe's steelmakers are betting that hydrogen will be the future of steel. Right now, it costs more to make it this way. But if gas prices stay high and carbon taxes rise, switching away from fossil fuels will become increasingly attractive from a business perspective too. But of course, using hydrogen alone doesn't make steel green. It's a process with several layers.
It kind of feels like an onion.
This is Caitlin Swalek, a steel analyst at the US-based nonprofit Global Energy Monitor.
The first layer is to make sure your electric arc furnace unit is running completely on green energy. But then you need to make sure that the reducing agent in the direct reduced iron plant is hydrogen. But that's not enough. You have to make sure that that hydrogen is actually being produced through an electrolyzer that's operating on 100% green renewable energy.
So, time for hydrogen, right? Well, unfortunately there is a catch. You need a lot of hydrogen. Like really, loads. Making all the steel in the EU out of hydrogen would require about 6 million tons of the gas. Just to satisfy the steel industry's hydrogen needs, you'd need almost as many wind turbines as the EU has today. It's not impossible, but it is a logistical nightmare.
One of the big challenges is where we build these hydrogen production facilities. It needs to happen in places that have that renewable energy capacity.
The problem so far is lots of steelmaking regions don't have that capacity, or at least don't have plans to build it up anytime soon. And piping or shipping green hydrogen from elsewhere requires infrastructure to do so. And that all means hydrogen can't be the whole solution. But there's a powerful way to simplify the problem that sounds almost too good to be true. Recycling. You might not expect it, but steel is already one of the most recycled materials in the world. More than a quarter of the steel made today comes from recycled scrap steel that nobody needs. That's basically because the first step of purifying iron ore is expensive. Melting down old steel, well, that's much cheaper. But there are limits. Each time you process steel, little impurities like copper and nickel can sneak in and weaken the metal. That means you can't recycle it forever. A third solution is to keep the blast furnaces we're already using, but catch the emissions before they escape into the atmosphere. That's what advocates of carbon capture are calling for. Fossil fuel companies say the principle is simple. Stick a box on top of a polluting pipe and suck up the CO2 that comes out so you can use it in industry, or store it safely underground. The reality is trickier. Today capture rates are often low and costs are high. What's more, the fossil fuel industry has used the promise of carbon capture and storage, or CCS, as an excuse to keep on polluting. But when it comes to decarbonising heavy industries, analysts do broadly agree that CCS has a vital role to play alongside hydrogen.
We're way behind in where steel decarbonisation actually is going, and this is largely down to complete inaction at the policy level.
This is Evard Perno from the Clean Air Task Force. It's one of the few environmental organisations calling to put money into capturing carbon.
One of the reasons why we don't know answers to questions like capture rates or how would it work on a commercial scale is because steel companies haven't had to actually reduce their emissions.
The International Energy Agency expects carbon capture to cover half of all steel production by 2050 in a climate-friendly scenario. If it works, it would free up hydrogen to be used in other processes that are also hard to clean. But today, we don't really know what share of emissions CCS can actually capture from steel. If steelmakers stick to blast furnaces but CCS doesn't quickly become cheap or efficient, the coal they burn will just keep on polluting. We can't solve steel by giving up on it. But there's a huge amount policymakers and companies can do to get the tech solutions working.
With age comes wisdom. We've all heard it. But what if the elderly in your community started building houses with eggs and nuts and jaggery? Well, I will not be able to sleep a wink in that house even if I was forced to. I'm pretty sure a roof made of egg will certainly fall on my head. But probably that is why the elderly in a village in South India are wiser than I am. Here's why.
Arriving in Ganapati Palayam, it appears to be a village like any other in India's Tamil Nadu state. The young have all left, only the elderly remain. Custodians of local knowledge, including the ways in which villagers once built their homes.
Have you ever made pork tiles?
I used to watch my father make them.
So your father handcrafted them, used a kiln to make them?
Yes.
Construction engineers Aravind Manoharan and Bharat Balasubramaniam want to tap into this ancient knowledge. They have visited more than 40 villages around Tamil Nadu in recent years, investigating the old techniques and building materials.
There used to be only 1 or 2 masons per region. Local people would work together with them. So anyone over 80 knew the entire process, how a mud mixture should be, how to choose the mud, what to add to the lime and its consistency, and about roofing and flooring. We interviewed elderly people in each region and benefited from their knowledge.
77-year-old stone mason K. Natarajan is one of the last of his kind. He is building a house, 650 square meters in area in Velakoil, in the old style. He adds egg white to the lime mix to lend the plaster a satin sheen. In the business for 50 years, he is delighted to share the secrets of traditional construction with a new generation of builders.
All the houses in my village used to be built like this. In the cities, they can't build structures like this. But we had mud walls, lime plaster, and tile roofs. This stopped with the advent of cement.
Aravind Manoharan and Bharat Balasubramaniam have been building with natural materials for the last 3 years. Things like myrobalan nuts or jaggery are sugar used in construction for centuries to bind lime plaster.
A house should use local materials, local soil, locally sourced inputs. Only then is it a structure that does not impact the environment.
Punitavathi T contacted Aravind Manoharan and Bharat Balasubramaniam to build her an old-style holiday home in the countryside.
We wanted a place we could practice organic farming because we wanted to provide good food for our kids. And since we wanted a house to stay in, when we came out here, we thought, why not do that naturally too?
7-year-old twins Venba and Satvikan love to play at their country home in Perundurai. The walls are coated with 5 layers of lime plaster that allow the house to breathe. This natural material keeps the house cool in summer and warm during winter. The wood for the roof was sourced from a reclaimed wood market. Punitavathi T and her husband Hemraj are among a growing number of middle-income house owners who have opted for green building materials. Aravind Manoharan and Bharat Balasubramaniam have already completed numerous sustainable projects, mainly in rural areas, including schools. Depending on model and workmanship, Building costs are priced at around 3,000 rupees or 35 euros per square meter. By contrast, a conventional house costs less than half that sum. Punitavati T doesn't regret the investment. She believes it's already paying dividends in a cleaner, more sustainable environment for her children.
We've all seen this. Rubble, bricks, the incessant construction sounds and the dust. We've all been there, whether it's our own house being built or that new house around the corner which is being reconstructed. But this material is literally the building block of the concrete jungle that we live in today. But after all of this construction is done, it leaves behind tons of this wasted material. But like most things that we have talked about on the show today, there is a company in southern Germany which has found a solution to this as well.
Germany creates 280 million tons of concrete waste every year. But at least this rubble will
soon be repurposed into new concrete. Face, a company in southern Germany, specializes in recycling building materials. A crushing machine turns the concrete pieces into small granules, which are sorted by size. The granules are then sold to cement manufacturers. What's good for Face can also be good for the environment.
On-site processing can save millions of truck kilometers.
Sand used to produce concrete is usually dug from large pits, then transported hundreds of kilometers. The same is true for gravel, the second component in concrete. But sand and gravel are becoming scarce. At this construction recycling plant, old red roofing tiles are also used to produce concrete. Recycled sand is taken from an old construction pit. It's cleaned and sieved before being sorted by size.
Everything here used to be a bridge or a floor slab or a house, and we're making something new from it. All this material would have ended up in landfills, in some dump, and now we can use it to make high-quality building products that are used in new construction projects.
The recycled products are then delivered to customers, like this nearby concrete manufacturer. This company is different than most of its competitors, because globally, only 2% of building materials get recycled. But this company depends on recycled materials, which account for 30% of its entire production. And the recycled concrete is less expensive, too. The materials are mixed in this plant and then delivered to customers. The final product will look like this: a building material that many customers prefer over conventional products. Other solutions are also being developed at this cement plant. For example, permeable concrete that can absorb rainwater, helping improve urban climates.
Rainwater seeps through this concrete and goes underground, which can help improve groundwater levels. And then warmth can cause the water to evaporate, eliminating hot surfaces.
This could help prevent concrete deserts with completely sealed surfaces. Recycled construction materials are also brought to this southern German company, which uses it to make concrete blocks. Ingredients include recycled sand and recycled rock granules. They are constantly testing new stone formulas in the lab, experimenting with different colors, shapes, and components to increase the portion of recycled content, which is 30 to 40%. The recycled look is intentional.
We're primarily talking about upcycling. We want to produce a very high-quality design. This tile pattern creates an entirely new surface.
This is what it should look like. A new generation of recycled sidewalk with lots of green grass sprouting up in between and space for water to seep into the ground. This is what many customers now want. It's a new growth market for the concrete industry.
I hope you found this episode interesting and filled with some solid, concrete facts. Okay, no more jokes, but do let me know what did you like the most about today's show and what would you like to see more of. Write to us at ecoindia@dw.com. We will keep bringing more such stories to you about the impacts on our environment, and I hope you continue being a part of this journey with me. Thank you so much. I will see you next week. Until then, have a lovely week. Namaskar.